Hey, everybody, welcome back to Author Eke. Today, we have a New York Times bestseller on Author Eke, Blaine Pardoe. And so I'm excited to have him. I've talked to him before. We have the same publisher, but his books are amazing. And I think he's Nostradamus. So, kind of reincarnated. So, but I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself, talk about his new book that just came out yesterday, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
No
And what
Greater
number is that in
Tyranny
the
released.
series? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he does more than that too. He's got pretty good lineage of just writing some very cool things, not just novels. And I know he does a lot of research for him because I kind of track him on Twitter. So Blaine, go ahead. Let's talk about. Let's hear from you.
Geez, I've been a writer most of my life. I'd started doing it full time 3 years ago, which was fantastic. I quit my job in the corporate world, which I absolutely hated, and got into being a writer,
Hear
which
that a
was
lot these days, by the way.
well, my job was for the last 11 years. I was at Ernst and Young. I was sending American jobs overseas and laying people off,
Ah,
and there's a point where that wears thin on you. And
yes.
I've been writing for a long time. A year ago, I was canceled from a science fiction franchise that I wrote for 36 years, BattleTech, because of the woke mob, and
Mm,
they certainly lived up to their reputation out there, because we've seen this happen with a lot of people, but it's not really. It's been very good for me in many respects. I have started a whole new science fiction series that's been bestsellers. The Blue Dawn series is selling fantastic on Amazon.
hmm
Can't complain at all.
So, how many in the series so far, and how many do you have planned?
Well, that's a great question. There are the fourth book just released, which is No Greater Tyranny. The fifth book is done in first draft. I have to go through, and as you know, that's always a
hmm
fun time to go through and redo it from beginning to end. I've
Then you
got to go
figure out
through and
what
do that.
the hell did I write here? Was that how late
Yeah,
was that, or how many beers did I have?
yeah, it's good to have some distance from it, and it's
Yes.
been a few months. So the goal is to have around 10 books in the series around the core characters. And
Wow.
then, the opportunity exists if I want to tell some side stories and
hmm
do some side books, various other characters and what was going on during this. But it's a story
hmm
about the Second American Civil War. And I think in many respects, we're living it right now. Not a
Maybe a
shooting
soft
war
one.
yet.
Yeah.
Definitely a cultural war, though.
Yes, I have to agree with you. So you have a few planned. Now, do you already have the stories in mind? Do you
Oh,
know where
yeah.
you're going to do the next?
Yeah. Yeah.
Continue and continue,
I've got a
continue.
general idea where I want to go with the characters. It's mostly
hmm
character arcs rather than the stories. I know where I want the characters to go.
Okay.
And the stories kind of have to feed the opportunities for those characters to do what they're going to do. It's a
Right.
really large ensemble cast of characters, and I always add two new characters with each new book.
Do you find that complicated to keep track of,
Oh,
or do you
God,
like
yes.
reintroducing characters, and how do you do that? Because you don't want to you don't want to reintroduce a character every time you write a book because people are going to say, "I already know about this folk, right? I already know about
Yeah.
this person or whatever."
You kind of have to do a little bit of it just
hmm
because 6 months has passed since the last book was out. So
Right.
people are going, give me a refresher. Don't make me go back and reread something, which is
Yes.
is is always good.
Right.
I think it's working out well so far, but I know where the characters are going to go. Keeping track of them, it's all up in my head. Um, I won't say it's
Oh wow.
100% perfect. I catch
Uh-huh.
myself usually during the edits. I'll go, what the hell was I doing here? Um, I usually catch most of the stuff that I would consider major inconsistencies with the
hmm
canon that I'm establishing in the universe. The same is true with the series I'm doing, Land and Sea, which is a science fiction series. It's a huge
Right.
ensemble cast, and you have to keep track of where people are going and where they're not. And some people think there's inconsistencies. they'll go, well, you mentioned this guy says he's in this unit in this chapter,
Mm,
but he also referenced a different unit in another chapter. I'm like, well, there's a backstory that goes with that.
right,
So, please play along. You'll get that story at some point.
right.
So,
There's people out there who just criticize to criticize, right? I
uh,
mean,
the internet empowers that. And a lot of it is if you had to go on the internet and you had to use your actual name and put your contact information up there, people wouldn't do the stuff they do.
no,
The
no.
anonymity empowers people to be morons.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Where I don't use a pseudonym. I don't use pseudonym or whatever. I'm out there who I'm out there, right? But you're 100% correct. I mean, so I started writing my third novel, and I got about 40,000 words into it. I go, I can't make it all jive, right? I can't, from a timeline perspective. I was like, oh my god. So I kind of trashed it and started over again. But I'm thinking, oh, now I can use pieces and parts of that because I can fit it in.
Oh
Because
yeah.
the story's the same, the theme or what I'm trying to do is the same. Now I can make it blend it all together better.
Well, and I always struggle with how much of it do you make the action of the book versus background information that you cover in a
Mm-hmm.
paragraph. I struggle a lot with that, and
Right.
yeah, I want the reader, because it's a political thriller series.
Mm-hmm.
With Blue Dawn, I want people to be part of the action. But sometimes it's easier to go, look, some of this stuff just happened, and
Mm-hmm.
I have flashback chapters throughout the entire series. They're halfway through the book that always kind of fill in some of the backstory,
Right.
especially the new characters, and go, oh, this is why they're acting the way they are, because there's actual reasons for that. And it, I've
And I
thought
think
it
that's
all
important.
through, but you're right. Stitching this all so everybody ends up at the same place at the same time at the end,
Is
it's tap dancing, and I don't think people understand how we have to sit and go, how am I going, just one storyline is almost
right.
done, but the others are three-quarters of the way through. How do I weave it so that these guys all end up at the same place at the end? And that's
That's
just part of
tough.
the craft. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no silver bullet for it.
Yeah. At Cobalt, there's three different things going on. I have to make them end almost at the same time.
Yeah,
Right. Three different, and I was, because I don't want to write just a linear story, right? I want multifaceted types going on, people doing different things, and you're right. You have to you create new relationships in your book with new characters or old characters, and you go back and how do these people know each other? Why do they know each other? Because I think that helps fit the storyline as you continue, because you do add enough to go, oh, I get it, and why is why can Lucy remember every phone number she's ever seen, and what is she, what gift does she have, and you have to reintroduce that. But no, I agree, because I think know your books are. I know you do a lot of research. I know you were down at the Ranger competition in Fort Benning
yeah,
in spring.
yep.
So being in the Army, we had a lieutenant, brand new second lieutenant, and I was in an air rifle platoon in Fort Riley, Kansas, 1st and 4th Cav, Delta Troop. And he was like, oh, yeah, you know what? I just got out of Ranger School, and we're going to go down there, and we're going to aggress at Eglin, Swamp Phase.
Oh
We're
yeah.
in Fort Riley. We don't have no swamps in Fort Riley. I mean, I never signed up for that, right? So we got there. We had to do everything the Rangers did except jump out of the airplanes. He made it, the rappelling. We did rappelling already, but all the, RB-15s, rafts, and the Yellow River, and patrols and all sorts of stuff. But it was fantastic. But so the Ranger competition is pretty cool. Can you kind of explain what you saw and what you kind of got out of
It
there?
was great because for both Blue Dawn and my science fiction military series, the recommendation was, hey, the more you know about ranger operations, it's probably going to help you
Mm-hmm.
doing this stuff. So I actually applied for a media pass, and I wanted to follow the rangers through training for a couple
Mm-hmm.
weeks.
Yep.
And they said, no, 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 come on down for best ranger competition, and you got to fill out a ton of paperwork.
Oh, I bet.
To get a media pass, and
Mm-hmm.
so I got that, and I've never done that before. And it turns out there was nobody. I mean, shouldn't say nobody. There were probably less than a dozen people there from the media, and mostly at the end to see who won. So they roll you out at 4:30 in the morning. You got to be at the front gate to the start of the competition, and
Yep.
they give you a media badge. And I found out quickly that I could go do whatever I wanted to do, and if I got into a dangerous area, they'd pull me back. So I stopped asking for permission. I just went and did stuff. And
What they say,
what I
excuse me,
found is,
sir, you can't be here.
oh, you know
Back
what?
up 10 feet.
They'll tell you that. And what I found was it was a great experience. I'm 60 years old, and they had us following these guys. They're like, okay, well, now they're going to go 3 miles that way. And it's like, okay, well, I guess we're going that way. I got to run right out to the helicopter with the guys when they dusted off. I ran right up to the helicopter and filmed it. I got to know these guys, and it was fun because they let me do things that normally a normal person watching the competition doesn't get to do. So when they were doing machine gun firing, the long range stuff, I was like, how's that observer seeing where those bullets go? They're like, here, come on over. You can, we'll hook you up with the observation gear and you can watch, and you can see the ripples
that's
of bullets
cool.
in the air.
Yeah.
When we did it in the competition down at in the stadium, they had, one of the things was they had to fire a javelin missile on simulator. So I was like, well, can I do that? And they're like, well, yeah, I guess you can. And I'm like, okay. And so when they did the mortar,
I think I'd walk out of there with another qualification badge.
I know. Well, that was the thing. I jumped in on everything. So when they did the mortar competition, I said, I was talking to the captain who was in charge of all the mortar parts. I'm like, how heavy are they? And he goes, well, why don't you come over and try lifting them? So I'm over there lifting them, and he goes, well, here, let's show you how to set them up. And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
So I set
the
up
base plate, you got the tube, you got a bunch of stuff.
And showed me how the sighting worked and how the sticks were positioned and stuff for the competition. I was like, this is great. So I got into it, and I knew the Rangers accepted me because there's always a group of about 12 guys there who are referees trying to help these guys.
Yep.
And when they did the Prusset climbing tower, we got there and they said, does anybody in the media want to go up? There were only 3 of us there. And I was like, I'll go. So I climbed the 6-story tower, got up to the top. I'm afraid of heights. So I got up.
They don't care. They don't care if you're afraid of heights.
Right. I got up there and they're like, why don't you lean over the edge? You'll get a great picture. And I said, I'm a little bit nervous of heights. And the one guy goes, well, watch where you're putting your foot. None of these grates are attached. If you step in the wrong spot, you're going to drop 6 stories. My eyes were the size of golf balls. And he goes, dude, I'm just fucking with you.
I would have to have a Swiss seat on with a ready to rappel off there just in case I'm doing Australian or something.
But the fact that they were picking on me, I felt kind of like, okay, they accepted me. Okay, we're on the same team here, and they were just appreciating somebody there was there covering it.
Right. It's amazing that you went down there and you care enough about your craft to go down and see or get some examples and visualize it. Then you can put that visualization down on pen and paper.
Oh yeah.
And really make it believable of, okay, this is what Rangers do, right? Or all, military in general.
Well, the next book, I've got this scene involving an M1 Abrams. So we came up on an M1 Abrams and I said, can I get in the driver's seat? And they're like, sure. I'm 60 years old.
Yep.
Getting in that seat. That's for younger kids. So I got in
Getting
there.
In's easy. Getting in's easy.
This is where it got funny because it was almost a Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree moment getting out. So I got in there and they're explaining to me how to drive it and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I got it. And I said, so how do I get out? And he goes, tuck your feet under your butt and just push up. And I said, I'm 60 years old. I haven't tucked my feet under my ass in 20 years. And he goes, okay, well, this is going to take.
I'm usually jumping through it.
So he helped me out, but it was hilarious. But, having been in the turret now and having been in the driver's seat, when I covered that scene in the book, it's mostly accurate. And that's, I think, what's important. If you're going to do the craft, spend some time to do the research. And I know you do that for your series too.
Yep. Yes.
You have no choice. And for me, I wanted to do it. I think I want to go back now, though, and go for Armor Week. because that looked like a
Oh,
lot of
that's the
fun.
armor school now. That's the armor school.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they have an armor week prior to the ranger competition. And I think if I go back, I want to do armor week because I now want to drive a tank.
They are fun.
Yeah.
I never drove an M1. I got to drive an M60, um, and turret of and commander of the 60, but just because from being in a scout platoon back in like 37 Cav, we had our platoon consisted of 4 tanks, I think, and five 113s, and two of those being two M109 uh, tow vehicles for the tubular launch, optically tracked, wire guided missile, and so I got to do that just because it would be kind of cool to do it. But definitely the Bradley you got to drive; those things are pretty cool. But I recommend anybody that's right in the military that had not been in the military, depending upon what they did in the military, to go do some of these things if you're going to put them in your book. Like I do a lot of technology, right? So I have to do a lot of research on, is this technology even viable? And then when I talk to people, I say, and they go, they're like, how do you know this sort of thing, right? I go, well, if I did this job, this is what I would want it to do. I've created software before. I've owned a software company, and so I was like, if I did this is what I want it to do, right? So and you take that craft too very seriously, because you have to have the readers say, you know what, he's getting on. He puts his foot on the sprocket, right? He climbs up into the turret,
Yeah.
or it has to go through all this thing because I have the Type 99 tank in my last book, Cobalt, and so I kind of talk about it a little bit. So you do that, and I know you. I think last time we talked about it, you were going through some training because your neighbor is like some kind of security guard service thing, but not
Yep.
just serve, but like bodyguard type stuff. And I know you were doing some of that stuff too last time we talked.
Yeah. Part of this comes from I have an online stalker who have a protective order against. And I realized, I need to be in shape and to be able to
Mm-hmm.
protect myself, not necessarily with a gun, although I'm
Right.
capable of doing that, but you have to
Yeah.
be able to physically be able to protect yourself. So my neighbor has a full gym, and he owns a protective service as well as he's a private investigator. So he was like, "Hey, I'll train you." And he trained me in boxing and a whole
Mm-hmm.
bunch of other stuff so that literally, if I'm assaulted with a knife, I know what I'm supposed to do. Whether I would be able to do that effectively, I don't know, but I'm better than I was. And
That comes down to muscle memory,
yeah,
right? That's
and
that's reaction.
I'm just, slow as steady and steady as fast. And I'm slowly getting better at these things. I continue to work out. I work out 5 to 7 days a week, depending on
Mm-hmm.
how it is, and I do it for an hour and a half. So I'm
Right.
actually in better physical shape than I've ever been in my entire life now.
60's
And
the new 40.
pardon?
60's the new 40.
Well, I just want to be in better shape to, if I'm confronted, because you know these a lot of these people that are online are very unhinged. They're not well mentally. And I need to be, you can't rely on a protective order to keep you safe. You have to be able to defend yourself if that's the case.
Of
So
course.
I've invested in being able to do that in myself, and as well as some of the tools and things in my house that are necessary to do that. And I
Right.
feel better for it. I feel bad that we live right now in a time where you have to do stuff like that.
Yeah, that's aggravating. I mean, I'm 64, so I mean, I work out every day. Walk, gym, almost every day. Um, I think that just comes from the military, regimen of life and things. I don't know. So when do you like to write? Like, you have a favorite time to write? I mean, like you go to the gym, you come back, you're like, oh,
Yeah, I
boom, or
honestly
like, oh,
that's the routine. I go to the gym. My wife goes to a yoga class.
hmm,
We come back and I shower up and I start writing probably around 10 or 11 in the morning, and I may go until 9 at night, depending on how I'm feeling
oh
and what
wow,
else is going on. It depends on the day. And I do that 7 days a week. Being retired from a full time job and being able to write full time,
hmm,
I'm used to writing on the weekends anyway. And
Yeah.
honestly, I don't like watching a lot of television. There's so much garbage on.
I just
Um,
started watching old Cheers episodes or something. I just
yeah.
so tired.
Well, they said the number one stream show is Seinfeld. It's like, it's not the new stuff, it's the old stuff.
They will cure cancer before they syndicate that, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's crazy. I'm
It,
with you.
I just love it. It's, I don't put on the TV other than to catch the news, and I'm only good for about
Mhm.
10 minutes no matter what channel I'm
Right,
watching for the news.
right.
I do watch CNN at the gym on closed captioning because it's a great source of material for my books.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah,
you get that crazy. Here's our latest view on what you need to be doing out there. You need to raise your air conditioning temperature to 78 degrees, and I'm like, you people are crazy. You know,
because you live where it's rather warm too.
yeah.
I live in
It's
Texas. It's rather warm here. Right now,
oh
it's really
Jesus,
hot.
Texas has been this year. Yeah.
It's been a sizzler. I don't
Well,
mean the
but
restaurant. I mean this has been a sizzler.
yeah, but when all is said and done, it's Texas in the summer. It's going to get hot. You
Yeah, don't
know,
move here if you don't like the heat in the summer.
that's how I am in here in Virginia. There's people that are like, "Oh my God, it was oppressive this year," and I'm like, "It's summer in Virginia. It's hot. It's humid. Guess what? In the winter, it's going to be cold."
It's gonna be that's called the weather. That's
Yeah.
the weather.
Well, and I only watch the news for research purposes at this point because I
Yeah.
can't trust anybody. There is no source out there that doesn't have some sort of slant or bias
Yep.
or opinion that they're pushing. So I'll watch a little bit of everything, but I do like the liberal news sources. There's just such a rich wealth of material.
Yeah, you get some characters out of there. So, do you have like a goal every day of words or pages, or do you say, "Hey, I want to finish this chapter"? Or, I mean, so
I
what
like
kind of your
reaching.
goal?
It's hard for me to say where I end. I do between 1,000 and 5,000, maybe 6,000 words a day. Uh, I try,
Wow.
but what governs it is if I end a chapter, and let's say it's 4 in the afternoon, it's like
Mm.
I don't want to start a new one because if I start the new one, I'm going to be down here all night until I get to the end. So
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
yeah, it
You
all
get in
depends on
trouble.
the pacing and the thickness
Mm.
and stuff. I try to do around 3,000 words a day. To me, it's I know a lot of people are always like, well, how many pages do you write? And it's like, we don't think that way as writers. We look at word count.
Yep.
And,
Right.
you know,
So,
to me,
what do you try to get at for your novels? What kind of word count between 60 and 100, or
I try to get at least over 100 or 110. Once you kind of cross that threshold, I think and there's some logic behind it, which is going to sound stupid, but audiobooks have become such a big
mm.
component out
Mm.
there of
Oh yeah.
book sales. And I found that the longer books, you have the longer audiobooks. So you get 15 hours of recording. And when people are spending their credits on Audible, they're more likely to spend their credits for a 15-hour audiobook as opposed to a 5-hour audiobook. And so
Interesting.
when you hit around the 110,000 words, you're over the threshold where it's going to be about between 10 and 15,000 or 15
Hmm.
hours worth of recording. And so yeah, it's just something that somebody instilled in me from the publishing industry. Like that's an important thing. So I'm like 110. I feel good. Back when I was doing novels for Penguin Putnam, the old paperback stuff,
Right.
those were like 65,000 words.
Huh.
That was
Interesting.
our word count limit back then was for a paperback book,
Yep.
that you would go down to your local bookstore and buy was 65,000 words. Things have changed, obviously. We're now trade paperback sizes and
Mm.
things along those lines.
So, how many books have you written?
Including all the RPG stuff that I've done over the years, I'm around 100 at this point.
Holy
I
smokes!
stopped counting a while ago because
Uh-huh.
it gets frustrating, and a lot of that stuff is from the 80s and 90s, and the stuff is out of print, and so do you count
Right.
that
Right.
still, and how do you count it? Or they may be books that I contributed to, so yeah, I'll count them
Okay.
in the list, but is it a big deal? Not really. But yeah, I've been writing a lot over the years. And now I'm almost at a book a month this year. I'm just one short of a book a month releasing.
Jeez.
So
I try to do one a year. I've only been writing for a year and a half, and I got
well,
two books. So
it's for me.
and I'm a late
This is
bloomer.
my mental therapy, though. So
So talk about your new book. You got the book right there where you got look at it and everything. Your cover. I know you got something in the
geez,
back of you.
that's a great question. Do I? I don't think I. Hang on. I
All
know I've
right,
got
no
one
sweat.
over
I'll entertain the folks
here.
while we
Where
have
is it?
this short intermission. The Blue Dawn, folks. There it is
Yeah,
right there.
sorry.
Blaine
Funny, I didn't even
Pardoe.
think about having one here.
There you
No
go.
greater tyranny. Uh,
Excellent. Tell us about it.
oh, it's fun. The American Civil War started up. Basically, the Blue Dawn series is about the progressives overthrowing the government. Um,
Huh.
page six of Blue Dawn. They've overrun the White House, killed President Trump. They believe they've killed Vice President Pence, and they've also by page six, I've killed Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Uh-huh.
So the progressives overthrow the government, and this series takes place 5 years after that, which we're currently entering right now. Timeline: the American vice president reemerges uh, and takes the oath of office. The people who have overthrown the government decide to fight it out, and so you end up with an American Civil War that erupted really in the second book of the series, Most on Civil War, and we've carried it forward. You've got an insurgency with the Americans up in
Mhm.
New Hampshire. Part of Texas has rebelled
Live
in
free
this
or
book.
die. Or is that
Pardon?
Vermont? One of those two. Live free or die. One of those.
Damn
Vermont
right,
or New
man. That
Hampshire.
Grant State, those people are diehard. I found out. And
Yeah.
then Texas, you got a couple of counties that decide to rebel and become a republic, which is a big part of this book is how they're dealing with that because they're
Hmm.
being propped up by the Chinese, the Russians, and various other people to do this.
I could
Um,
probably name the counties, but
well, I picked the northern portion. Let's put it that way of
okay.
Texas. Yeah,
Oh, I got to move.
no, no, no. Well, it doesn't work out so well for them.
Oh, maybe I
But
hang out.
you know, you've got social quarantine camps where they've rounded up all the conservatives and put them in social quarantine so that they, for their own protection is the lie
Of
that's
course.
told. You've got the Truth Reconciliation Committee, which, is very close to what Biden proposed with his misinformation governance board. I
Right.
was out before that. There have been times I'm wondering if these guys are reading my books and using them as a playbook. Because
Well,
I'm
they're
a
not
little,
very creative, so maybe.
yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. Biden's known for his plagiarism, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's stealing a few ideas here and there. But a lot of the stuff I've
At least
written
give you the
about,
royalty on it. I mean, come on. I mean,
yeah, I don't think that's going
give
to
you some.
happen. He's more of a money coming in than a money going
Yeah,
out.
that's right. I'm sorry. He's more of a vacuum.
But I've had some fun with the Civil War because the American military is kind of taking a standby, so it's mostly National Guard units that are involved, local
Hmm.
militia, the Sons of Liberty. It's a very different kind of war, and I believe having been a student of the Civil War and living here in Virginia, I
Well,
live on a Civil War battlefield. I'm a big my interest in civil wars are fascinating, and I think to end a war, you have to go through a lot of pain. If it ends quickly, it doesn't solve the issues, and
right.
we're seeing a lot of people right now still trying to fight the last civil war. Still, they're arguing over Confederate statues and crazy stuff
Exactly.
about the reconciliation that has already taken place, but for some reason
Right.
they want to kind of turn this all back up and have another round of discussion and debate about it. So I've really had some fun with it. It's about this core
Mhm.
group of characters that are very diverse and interesting to go through, and how they get sucked into this war, what their roles are. One is the director of the Secret Service for the American president. One's was an operative for the new American government, which was the overthrown government. And once
Mm-hmm.
she realizes how corrupt they are, she flips sides, and she's very interesting to play with. And it's a good romp. It's lots of interesting stuff for me to play
Right.
with. And a lot of it is just I look at the modern day headlines and I amplify a little bit what's there. Or in some cases, I don't even have to do that.
They
You
do it
know,
for you.
the chief
Yeah,
villain
I'd
of
have
the
to say
book,
too.
the chief villain
Go
of
ahead.
the
I'm sorry.
book is patterned, not even loosely, it's patterned 100% on AOC. Um, because she is the Robespierre. If the government was overthrown, she would fulfill that role of Robespierre.
Right.
She's, off with their heads. That's, she is very much a violent revolutionary. I
Let them eat
remember,
cake.
pardon?
Let them eat cake.
Yeah,
Right.
she's
Type
very
of
much
Marie Antoinette.
that. And I've had a lot of people criticize me for that because they're like, well, she's an idiot. And I'm like, yeah, but you talk about her and she knows how to play the media, and that makes her as dangerous as anybody else. She is following Donald Trump's playbook in terms of how
Mm-hmm.
she gets her name out there, and she doesn't care if it's for something stupid. It's more important that
Right.
you're talking about her,
Yep.
and that makes it interesting. She makes an interesting character in all of this. So I'm having a lot of fun with it. I poke at modern day politicians, their
Mm-hmm.
characters in the book, and I have
Right.
no qualm about doing that. In some
Well, they're
cases they're
public
brilliant.
figures. They're
Yeah,
public figures. You can do that. Yeah.
yeah. If you want to be out there, you're subject to my interpretation of you. So it's a lot of fun. I'm having a good time with it, and it's a fun series for me to
Right.
write. It's painful at times. The comments I get from readers are, "I hate your book because it's so damn real, but I'm kind of compelled to flip each page, so because it's good."
Right. Right.
And
Excellent. You got to keep them on their toes. You got to keep the
well,
reader interested.
when you write an alternate history like this, one of my friends told me, he said, the realization is we're only 1 or 2 bad days from this stuff all happening.
Would
And
Ronald Reagan say we were one generation away from
yeah,
tyranny or something
yep,
like that? Yeah.
yep. And
Yep.
if you think about it, you look at the events of 9/11 and how that is still part of the dialogue that's happening out there, or
Yep.
not 9/11, January 6th.
January
We
6th.
just
Yeah.
keep beating this drum over and over and over, and it still galvanizes people, and people have formed opinions about it without ever seeing any of the actual evidence or
Mm-hmm.
really getting the full story because we haven't gotten the full story yet.
Right.
And it's interesting, and it's so what would it take for somebody to just go, we've had enough. We're not going to allow an American president to take the office. And is it unrealistic to think that if, let's say, hypothetically, Donald Trump were to win the
Mm.
election, do you think there won't be rioting in the streets? I think there
Oh
will
my
be.
goodness. But it'd be peaceful, mostly peaceful.
No, no, you can
No,
spin it any way you
I know.
want. There's nothing, no
I'm
such
just
thing as mostly peaceful. The one
mostly
that I had the
mostly
most
friendly
fun with
people.
is in the second book. I have a government agent shows up and tells this guy who owns a restaurant, you can't have wood fired pizzas anymore, because wood fire pollutes, and you can't
Right.
have that anymore. And then New York turns around just a couple months ago and tries banning wood fired pizzas.
I
You
know. I
know,
saw that. And coal fired. That's the
yeah,
pizza. That's what gives a pizza the taste.
yes.
You know? Holy
So
cow.
a lot of this stuff is easy to predict because, you just look at them and they they always announce what they're going to do on the left, and I just take that and turn it into stories.
Right. I had a guy that read one of my books that came up to me and said he reads a lot of Jack Carr. Read all of his books, I think, and he goes, how do you guys know? He goes, I know you guys write this stuff months in advance, but a lot of the stuff you guys write about comes true in eventually. And I go, well, I think we have situational imagination, right? So we're seeing what's going on and kind of, well, what could happen, right? I look at again, I look at things and say, okay, this is what I would, either do, or I think this they're going to do this based on historical, because history will repeat itself in one way or another. In some fashion, it'll just be newer, right? And how are you going to play with that? How do you get that? But then you got technology that plays a big role now. So how do you deal with that? How do you kind
Well,
of weave it into a story?
it is, and like I said, a lot of it's just using common sense and looking at what's in the news. I saw somebody
Mm.
the other day posted, hey, all you people that think, with AR-15s you can protect yourself against the government. Here's a picture of the new Abrams tank. And
I
my
saw that.
response to that was, why do you have this fantasy that you keep doing about using jets and tanks against other Americans? Why, you know,
Right.
you're trying to project your gun control argument on me. I'm going to flip it around and project back on you that you seem to have this weird fantasy about going after other Americans with tanks. Why do you think that's acceptable? Immediately I got blocked, but
That's what happens.
yeah, I don't care if you want to block me, block me. It doesn't bother me the way you might think it does. It just tells me that you're not willing to engage in that debate, and that's fine because I block a lot of people too. But it's
I tell you,
amazing to me.
where I live in North Texas. We all get along. I mean, you know, every persuasion, every ethnicity, uh, every whatever religion, everybody gets along. And when you see some of the stuff, like, where is this going on at? Because I definitely don't want to go there, but everybody gets along.
Yeah, we have the same thing. I live in outside Washington D.C. I'm in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Mm,
People, I keep hearing, oh, there's terrible racial problems. We aren't seeing it. We did
right.
have some problems around the whole 2020 period. There were some
Mm.
problems. I mean, I know of a
Oh yeah.
65-year-old guy who stepped out of the store and got knocked on the ground face first, by
Uh,
somebody that just attacked him because he was a white guy. And
right.
that happened. I mean, and I know the guy, and he was like, I didn't even see it coming. I just stepped out, didn't say anything. I
Mm,
just turned, and somebody cold cocked me and knocked me down and broke my
right.
nose and everything else. And I'm like, other than that, we haven't seen that. I live in the South.
Mm.
I saw more racial injustice, to be honest
In the
with you, and
north.
racism problems in the North when I lived in Detroit. There were a
Mm.
lot more problems up in the Detroit, and a lot more just blatantly everything became racist. And this was in the 80s and 90s. There was a lot of every time somebody questioned the mayor, he screamed, "Well, you're just a racist." And
Hmm.
it
Yeah. I don't. I
no,
don't get it.
so that's not the answer. It's but I don't see
You're
it living in the
incompetent.
South. My
You're incompetent
grandson
thief, probably that's snorting coke.
yeah, one of my grandson's best friends is a black kid. It's like it doesn't mean anything. It's just
Right.
I don't think that and I've talked to my grandson about this, and he doesn't understand racism at all because he's like, I'm in a school where half the kids are black, half the kids are white. We all get along. It's not a problem.
Well, that's America. I mean, we do.
Yeah,
That's crazy. So,
but
what do
we're
you got?
told
You got any book signings planned or anything, or
no,
what's
no.
on your marketing agenda?
It's funny. Yeah, I see you doing a bunch of those, and I'm like, Godspeed. I don't
Yeah.
enjoy book signings. I don't know about other authors. I'll float it out to you, but it's
Uh,
the most awkward goddamn feeling when you are sitting there at a table
yes.
and people walk up and they're like, "What's this?" And you go, "It's a book. I wrote it. It's about this, this, and this."
Yep.
And they eye it and then they walk away, or they go, "Well, I wouldn't be interested in that."
Right.
You know,
I,
I just can't do that stuff anymore. I do conventions. I'm going to be at Based
yeah.
Con up in Grand Rapids, Michigan in September. It's a gathering of conservative science fiction
Mm,
writers, etc. We're all getting together to talk about our work and about the state
mm,
of affairs currently in the publishing industry around right versus left, and we're going
right.
to talk about those things. And I'm really looking forward to that. So it's going to be a lot of fun to do that. But I've been steering away from doing regular book signings. Part of it is my crazed stalker has made it real clear about wanting to confront me at a book signing, even though I've got a protective order.
Oh,
You
wow.
just don't want to have,
What an ass.
you don't want to have crazy people have that kind of access to you. So I'm a little more measured in where I go at this point.
I mean, I do them because a nobody knows me, so I had to get the book out in hands outside of Amazon. And talk about the book and everything, and really figure out what's going on in America. You can do that by just talking to people, especially grocery stores. I've got, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be in Manassas, Virginia, at Eavesdrop Brewery on the 14th of October doing a
Ooh,
book signing.
you're
Yeah,
close.
because Eavesdrop Brewery is in every one of my books. Uh, and the reason is I went there. My son lives in Manassas, and I went there. I'm like, man, I love this place. Beer garden, beer's good, people are friendly. Just a fantastic place. I said, and I was writing the end of my first book. So, well, how am I going to close this thing kind of out, right? So I said, wouldn't it be cool if the team came here after the mission to have a beer and to decompress, right?
Oh yeah.
So I put that in there. Then I put in the Drop, which is a place you buy beer there. It's in the Cobalt, and E Drop's in there, and I put it, in there pretty kind of prominently at the end. So I got a hold of Sam, the guy that does marketing for them, and I said, "Hey man, how about a book signing?" You know, he goes, "Well, that'd be great. We never had one, so yeah, let's do it." So we did one last year. We're gonna do another one this year because to get some other folks into the brewery. But it just, and because I want people eventually when they read a book, if there's 3 or 4 people standing there that kind of resemble the team, is that Team Texarkana over there? All right, did they just get back from a mission? Right, I want to let that imagination uh, kind of take hold after a couple beers. It does normally.
Now,
So
I haven't been
that's
there. I've
that's
been
why
to
I do the
Twin
signings.
Silos in Manassas. I used to live in
I think I've been
Manassas,
there.
which is funny that you mentioned that. I used to live there.
Yeah,
Um,
he lives in oh yeah, Manassas Park, I guess that's what it's called. But yeah, and works in Chantilly area. But yeah,
oh yeah.
so that's why I do the book signings because nobody knows who I am, and I want to be able to talk about the book and get it in the other hands. But and I'm pretty extroverted, so it's pretty goes pretty easy, I guess.
Well, yeah, it's good. To me, I just haven't found a place I like doing them in. I've done them over the years, and I
Yeah,
prefer to, if I'm going to do that stuff, I'll go to a convention. I went to a convention earlier this year and did a signing and stuff, and
yeah,
that's a little more controlled. And I'm,
you're right.
the people are there looking for that type of stuff. And sometimes when you do the normal, go into a Barnes and Noble and sit at the table,
I
and
haven't done that.
oh, it
Yeah,
is brutal. And
yeah. I
Barnes
mean,
and Noble, there's a lot of yeah. We'll help you here, but really all they do is print your picture and put it on the door and say he'll be here on this
yes,
date. So there's not a lot of
yeah, yeah.
marketing. And I think people don't understand how much marketing we as writers have to actually do.
It's a brand. You create your brand
Oh yeah.
basically, and you have to go out there and just market yourself. You know, put yourself out there for podcast or interview or articles or the reviews or just being able to be accessible to be able to talk about the books and stuff. That's one reason
Well,
why I do the podcast because I absolutely knew nothing about the industry at all. So I said, well, a better way to figure it out than talk to people who've either done it or trying to figure it out themselves, and maybe I can help.
I do one myself, as you know. I read
I
the
know.
books and bring the authors
Yep.
on. It's a slower process, but I'm still grappling with how to best leverage some of this technology and how do
Yep.
you leverage engaging with the fans. And some of it is you have to be on social media, which I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
huge fan of. I will say this, most of what I put on social media is either me having fun or
Right.
it's me marketing myself and going, hey,
Mm-hmm.
the new book's out. This is where it is on the bestseller list, things along those
Right.
lines. But people always are like, well, you put out a lot of marketing stuff. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm a
Yeah.
writer. And if I don't do it, who's going to do it? And I've heard a lot of
Yeah.
young writers, they come in and they're like, well, I expect the publisher to do all that. And I'm like, publishers try, but you can't expect them to do it. And their marketing budgets, even for the New York publishers, and I've written for some of the big New York
Yeah.
publishers, their marketing budgets tend to go to like 3% of their authors. And the
Mm-hmm.
rest of it, everybody else just gets bare minimum. You
Right.
know, that's just the way it works. Now, some of the publishers are kind of changing that. I've seen with Bain Books lately, they're
Mm-hmm.
spreading the wealth around to their newer authors and stuff, kind of raising them up. And I think that's good. I think it's a smart move. But the burden falls on the author. It's like we're an entire industry here, guys. We write the books, we
Right.
research the books, we go through the edit process. We have to audition audio people to do the books,
Yep.
narrators. We have to listen to somebody read our book back to us to make sure that they got it
Mm-hmm.
right.
Yep.
And then we have to market the hell out of it. It's a lot of
Yep.
work.
As you're writing another book,
As you're writing
right?
another book, because everybody's going, when's the next one coming?
And maybe work,
Yeah.
and maybe work because you got a series or whatever with that. So, Blaine, what do you got? What advice would you give to a fledgling author from your pretty vast experience with what kind of advice in closing
Look,
would you give to those
just
folks?
write every day. It's a muscle. We talked a little bit earlier about muscle memory. That's
Mm-hmm.
using your brain as muscle memory and being creative. If you do something even remotely creative every day, you're going to get better at it, you're going to get faster at it, and you're going to learn. Obviously, I recommend reading books. The best way to
Yep.
become a better writer is to actually read books by better authors than you, and I've been
Mm-hmm.
privileged to do that. It's also, though, I write everything. It doesn't matter if I'm doing a blog post. It doesn't matter if I'm writing an art. I got interviewed by somebody who wanted my opinion on the war in Ukraine, so I did an interview on that one day. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I write up movie reviews and post them in my
Right.
blog. I'm just exercising that muscle in my brain so that
Mm-hmm.
when I have to turn it loose on a book, I can really turn it loose and it's more comfortable to me. And you got to carve out the time to do it. And
Yep.
writing's a discipline. And I think most people don't realize is you have to kind of have a schedule. And even if it's 2 nights a week, I'm going to do this,
Mm-hmm.
then stick to the schedule and do it. And if you do that, you're going to find it's a lot easier to do it. Otherwise, what you end up with is a book where you start writing and you get 20,000 words in and it dies because real life happens and you
Yep.
refuse. It's the easiest thing to give up is your writing. And it's also the biggest mistake if you want to be a writer.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. So, where can everybody reach out to you? Where's your books at?
Oh,
Where can we
geez.
find
I'm
you?
all over the place. You can get me on Twitter. It's bpardo870. I'm on Facebook, blainepardo.com. You can reach me through there. I'm the last person on America Online. Uh, so I'm holding down the fort.
I had to make sure that this wasn't spam when I
Oh,
got the
I know.
email.
I've caught so much ribbing from this lately that it's been embarrassing. But for now, I'm holding down the fort on AOL. They can't pull the plug because I'm still there. But
Okay.
there's a lot of ways to reach out to me, and I invite you. If you really want to get to know me, read my books. That's the best way to know me. I write true crime. I write with
Mm-hmm.
my daughter. I write political thrillers. I write science fiction, military. I write a whole bunch of stuff. Go look at my repertoire. You're going to find something that you or your spouse is going to want to read, and I recommend you
Mm-hmm.
do that.
And then get you on Amazon, and you
Oh,
also
yeah,
get you on Defiance Press
absolutely.
through there. Everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Defiance Press is great. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a great publisher to work with. Uh, Dave is
I would have to agree.
fantastic. And I will say this in all of my years of writing, I got the author's copies of my book, No Creator Charity. I got them a month before the book came out. I've never had that happen with
Mm-hmm.
any other publisher on the planet. Um, you know, the authors are always the last person to get their author's copies.
Yes.
I mean, we get them sometimes 2 or 3 months after the book is out. So if
Mm-hmm.
we want a copy, we will order a copy from
Yeah.
Amazon of our own book just so that we can have a copy.
Mm-hmm.
Defiance has really worked through their production piece, and I just think it's outstanding.
Yeah. Good group of folks too.
Yeah. Oh, fun to
Good
work
group of
with.
folks. Well, Blaine, it's been fantastic. Man, I can't believe you crank out some stuff, man. It's amazing. It's
I'm just having
amazing.
fun. Travis, this is
You're
just
just getting
about having a good,
started.
it's
You're
just
just getting
about,
started.
yeah, I'm just having a good time. Yeah. To me, I'm writing in my head even when I'm at the gym. I'm thinking
I
of
do
stuff.
too.
I'm
I
working
think I
through
got the scenes.
dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah. I take notes all the time on my phone where I'm sitting there taking down notes going, this was a good idea. I like this.
Yep. Or I'll be driving with my wife and I'll say, hey, put this on your phone. So you don't have an idea.
I know that feeling.
Excellent. Well, Blaine, it's been a pleasure talking to you again, folks. Go out there, get his new book, and look at the other ones, and read the first one, go all the way through, and there's going to be some more. So we'll see what happens in the United States at the end.
Yeah.
Hope good stuff.
Thanks for having me
All
out.
right, Blaine. Thank you.